Well, hello everyone. I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado, because I can't seem to get home. We've got a great show. Stay with us. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Thompson, and we have really a very somber show. In between, we're going to have a wonderful interview with an incredible storyteller. He's a documentary maker. His name is Nik Coleman, and they tell the stories that make all of us go, wow, like what is life about, and how weird is this, and everything from aliens to, issues, people's true life stories, plane crashes, that's one in their future. But it's going to be fascinating. Before we get to our guest today, you all know and you've heard this shocking news, that our government would want to criminalize and imprison people like myself, people who tell the truth every single day. Why do we have to tell the truth? Because we know that the CTV, CBC global conglomerate are not speaking the truth. Why? Because they get $400 million a year to basically tell their lies and to be puppets for the Liberal government. So it's a very slippery slope when we tell you that children are in harm's way, that religious freedom is at stake, all kinds of things that we share with you. When we tell you that Canada is leading in assisted suicide, it's disgusting, it's disturbing. When we tell you that Canada is literally one of the leading places to take away the freedoms of its citizens, it's like a communist country. So I want to put up, just to begin very quickly, I was reading in John 12 this morning, and these two scriptures came to my view. And it says, yet at the same time, many even among the leaders believed in him. But because of the Pharisees, they would not openly acknowledge their faith for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue, for they loved human praise more than the praise of God. Nothing's changed. Everybody's so afraid of not having the praise of man that they cannot be vocal and courageous at this hour. Everyone is so afraid that if they speak up, maybe they're going to be in trouble, that bills like this are terrifying to them. The bill that the Liberal government wants to pass. And do you know what it says here? It says that because the Pharisees, they believed in Jesus, but because of the Pharisees, because of the religious leaders. Have you noticed the compromise of the church? Have you noticed that those who should be standing for our values, who should have been salt and light, who should have been investing themselves into the education systems of our countries, so that our kids don't think that they're gender fluid. Very soon, what I'm saying right now could be deemed to be not protection of children from a sick ideology. Very soon, what I'm saying right now could land me in jail. Very soon, it could land me with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of fines so that I'm no longer able to speak what is right and what is true. I want to give you a very brief clip. I know Ezra Levant has a way of sort of unpacking it, and he was with a guest, and they unpack this latest bill. So take a listen to this.
Well, I went through a 17-page media handout that the government gave yesterday, and I'm sort of marching my way through the bill. I'm only at page 17, so I'm taking my time. Maybe I presume that you've read it. Instead of us going through it, section by section, maybe you can tell me what concerns you the most, sort of skip ahead to the bad parts, so to speak. What do you think is the worst part of this, or there's probably several of them?
Ezra, to pick a worst part, I think one of the worst parts we can find is the amendment to the criminal code that they are wanting to put forward to allow for people, anyone with the consent of the Attorney General of Canada, to bring an information forward to say, not that you have committed a crime, a speech crime, but that you may commit a crime, that they have reasonable grounds to believe that you will commit a crime. And what kind of crimes are we talking about? We're talking about crimes such as inciting hatred, or the most recent amendments to the criminal code that have passed, downplaying the Holocaust. And in order for them to come to court and say, you haven't committed this, but we think that you will commit this crime, a provincial court can then order you, on the basis of someone else's belief, has to be reasonable, but that's in the eyes of a court to find. They can order you to undertake a recognizance. And that is a court order that you promise to do a bunch of different things. And under this new piece of legislation, it's not just a normal kind of undertaking, we're going to keep the peace. We can put an ankle monitor on you. We can issue a curfew that keeps you in your house. We can order that you submit your bodily fluids for the registry. We can
pause right there. I want to call that up on the screen. Olivia, can you, in the PDF document, type in the word recognizance? And it's the seventh or the sixth. It's one of the first hits there. Scroll ahead to where it says conditions in recognizance, because Marty's talking about. You click ahead to the next one. You know how you can go to the next one and find, and then the next one, and then, So the provincial court may commit the defendant to prison for a term of not more than 12 months if the defendant fails or refuses to enter the recognizance. And then, Marty, I'm just going to rattle through the recognizance. I'll go straight back to you. I just want to show on the screen, as you mentioned it, the provincial court judge may add any reasonable conditions to the recognizance that the judge considers desirable to secure the good conduct of the defendant, including wearing an electronic monitoring device, return to and remain at their place of residence, so house arrest, abstain from the consumption of drugs, of alcohol, provide for the purposes of analysis a sample of bodily substance, provide a sample on regular intervals, abstain from communicating directly or indirectly with any person, or refrain from going to any place. Firearms, ban from firearms, surrender anything. I've never seen such a draconian. Is this the provision you're talking about? I haven't got this far ahead, but I did. Yeah. I mean, I was familiar with this with the earlier version of this bill. Is that what you're talking about, Marty?
This is what I'm talking about, Ezra. Like, this is so bizarrely draconian. And again, you do not find these kinds of conditions for even serious crimes. You find these kind of conditions being imposed on someone who has been, there's evidence against them for committing actual terrorism. And what we are talking about here, Ezra, we're not talking about someone actually having committed offense. No, if you go up to section sub 3 under adjudication, we're talking about a provincial court judge finding that an informant has reasonable grounds for the fear that you will do something that violates the speech provisions of the criminal code. And just to remind you of how broad our criminal code speech provisions are getting, and they're going to get broader under this bill if it passes. We're talking about provisions such as, and it lists it there, 319 sub 2 of the criminal code. And what does 319 sub 2 of the 2.1 of the criminal code says? It says everyone who, by communicating statements other than in private conversation, willfully promotes anti-Semitism, of course, we're all against that, by condoning, denying, or downplaying the Holocaust. So what we are saying is that if this law passes, if someone is concerned that someone else might in the future downplay the Holocaust, well then they can take that concern, and if that concern is found to have reasonable grounds, the judge in that case can issue an order that you submit to a recognizance with all of these conditions, or if you don't submit to a recognizance, that you go to jail for a year.
Wow. So that's where it's at, everybody. And I'm a big mouth, and I got here because I was with a Christian organization as a national television host. And when I began seeing what they were telling our kids, I spoke out as a mom, as someone very concerned that my little precious boy, who has an identity given to him by God, was being told that maybe God made a mistake and maybe he's a girl. So I began talking about that and showing what they put in the curriculum. And I was axed from my Christian organization, not because they didn't agree with me, but simply because they weren't willing to stand. So this kind of assault is now coming to us from all angles. And if the people within our own belief system will not stand, how will anyone stand? How will anyone stand? And so I'm pretty shocked at all of this. Later on in the show, at the end of the show, I'll share with you the Criminal Code of Canada 162.1, which already it already stops and should be stopping all child pornography. It should be stopping anything that has to do with sex trafficking and things like this. We have criminal provisions. They're piling a whole bunch of things into one place so that basically they've got everybody. They've got everybody. And you either remove your post within 24 hours or you face huge fines. And if somebody doesn't like you, and how many of you have been following me long enough to know that lots of people don't like me in certain communities because I dare to speak the truth in love, I might add, because I know that we are all loved, we're all powerful, but I do not have to agree with your position in life in order to have peace in my country. That shouldn't be how it is. This is not China. We do not live in Syria. Freedom of speech is fundamental to having a country that is literally, a place you want to be. If you want to live in a country, I would only ever want to be in a country where I could operate in complete freedom with who I am. Well, let's go to our guest because we have a real treat today, and that is Nik Coleman. And these guys, I want to give Nick an opportunity to share what they do, and we do have a clip of some of their work. They have done a lot of documentaries, let's say on 9/11, on the Roswell alien issue, all kinds of things. So, Nick, we just welcomed you to the show. Thank you so much for spending time. I know it's late there in the UK. Thanks for
It's not that
getting
late.
the kids to bed and spending time. Not too late? Okay. Thank you.
It's just a little bit. It's 25 minutes past 8 over here
All
in the UK.
right.
So yeah, it's not that late. Great to be on the
listen,
show.
I've heard of
I
you
should
guys.
say,
Yeah, you do great work. Tell us about it. Give us sort of the inside scoop on your organization and these documentaries, how you've come to produce them.
I guess we're two things. We're storytellers first and foremost. We were talking about being transgender, weren't we? Just for a moment there, I was Maxine, but fortunately returned to my right name there. That's right. Having a little
Sorry about that.
little smile with your production people there. It's okay. No, it's gender fluid. Um, so we stand
It's
for
funny.
the truth, not in a campaigning way, although we have been involved in campaigning videos. I'm an ex BBC journalist, but also been out there and done a lot of other things in my life. I have a very young team. I've got a family-based team as well. So my daughters are managing director, but then all of the team that we've got, we like to say that we've grown them ourselves. So most of our staff, who are very, very young but very highly experienced, we kind of got them as embryos and then developed them ourselves. So we make a whole wide gamut of programming, which hopefully some of your viewers will have seen. We sell all over the world. We sell to Netflix, to Amazon, to your colleagues at Blue Ann in Canada, who run some of your channels over there, to History Channel, China, Korea, Australia. We make very serious documentaries. So we just made 60th anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination. We made that for History Channel.
Wow.
Across the world, and for Channel 4 in the UK. Two very different documentaries. We do some feature documentaries that we take to film festivals. So we've just made one that's called To People Like Us. That's somebody came to us originally with a concept for a pro-life documentary, which we didn't feel would sit very easily with a lot of audiences. But what we ended up making was a documentary about what can happen if you do see through a life where some people may choose to abort a child if they know they're going to have severe intellectual disabilities. I don't want to get drawn politically on that. That's people's individual decisions. So we wanted to demonstrate what can happen if you do see through that life and see a value in person, somebody who may only live until they're in their 20s. So it's called People Like Us, a remarkable organisation in Oklahoma called the Center of Family Love, a faith-based organisation that look after people with severe intellectual disabilities through their entire life, but for free. So they have a little bit of state aid, but they raise money. So we went off on some remarkable adventures for that. It's a very, very
Wow.
stirring
I think we have a
documentary. It's a
trailer
tough
on that.
watch.
Nick, should we
Yeah.
show that? Should we show the trailer then now?
We would love to see it. Beautifully put together by one of my colleagues, Rachel Bull, this trailer.
Yes, that's why I'm here.
Why do people don't like the way we are?
I kind of feel like my brothers judge me. Sometimes the world doesn't see you, they see your learning disability.
Some people look at them and not think them as human beings.
Someone pushed me for no reason.
Every man, woman, and child with a disability can now pass through once closed doors. Can now pass through once closed doors. Pass through once closed doors.
We would like to think that we've come a long way with social diversity, with equality, treating everyone with respect, trying to get the very best out of every individual.
It all started a long, long time ago.
We may not be perfect, but we're on the right track, aren't we?
We want him to be treated right. And people, they just don't like disabled and handicapped.
I just thought I was like, just like the rest of the kids, you know?
I had like a rough life.
I was diagnosed with brain cancer when I was 2.
When I was 13, I got in a car wreck with my brother and I almost lost my life.
I went through chemo, radiation.
They found a brain tumor about a year later after that car wreck, which changed my life dramatically.
This is the chance to begin to build something so innovative, something that's never been done like this before.
Wow. I don't know if it's because I haven't had enough sleep, but I'm emotional just watching that. I've been under a lot of stress, so I'm like, wow, this is just really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that particular package, the whole we were talking about, sort of people and talent and truth telling. So that whole package is put together by a young lady called Rachel Bull. She's only 24. She's got about 40 hours of broadcast experience behind her, meaning 40 hours that she has put into broadcast mastering. You can imagine for somebody who's just 24, that's, the industry. Started with us when she was 16. For the first 2 weeks she was with us, I could not wait to get rid of the girl. I thought she was a disaster, a walking disaster. But she's blossomed and grown, and somebody who we gave a chance to. But anyway, the documentary is remarkable. I shot it out there with my colleagues Luke Holliday, Nik Coleman, and Byron Webster. Absolutely remarkable content. The resilience of the people involved is just absolutely astonishing. And as I say, we won some film festivals with it, and we're now putting it into broadcast distribution. So when that comes up, that will absolutely be worth taking a look at. That's at the far end of what we do in terms of very strong, very emotional content. We've also done quite a bit of work with post 9/11 wounded veterans. But on the flip side, we've also done the Roswell conspiracy, a whole load of fun, and we're working on a documentary for next year that is the history of the thong. That's to say, the women's underwear garment. Well, not just women, but blokes.
I was wondering if you meant that thong.
I do mean that thong, yeah. 50 years of the thong, but actually it's a fascinating story about the cultural impact that it's had. So we make a load of stuff, but what we do lots and lots of World War II content, lots of aviation content, Many, many viewers in Canada and America would have seen our series Plane Resurrection and History's Greatest Aircraft. We covered D-Day very heavily in 5 years ago for the 75th anniversary. We're doing the same for the 80th. But what we're interested in is the truth and telling real stories. We are, I think, like everybody else, hopefully everybody else, heartily sick of just trash TV. I'm just tired of it. I'm exhausted with it. I'm old.
Right.
I can't bear. I don't know whether you have Love Island in Canada, but all of that kind of stuff. I'm just exhausted with this nonsense. And thankfully, in the post Game of Thrones television world that we live in, thankfully the tide is turning into some serious documentaries, and we've got involved in a couple of campaigning documentaries. One, which I'm sure would appeal to you, that was online only. It's called When We Stand. It's about a church in Oklahoma, a small church, with a very eccentric pastor, who I'm sure he won't mind me saying that, Pastor Danny. And they chose to run a childcare operation, but they ran it in a manner that had a sort of Christian, a Christian foundation to it. And the state of Oklahoma, and I'm sure this will chime with you, the state of Oklahoma came along and said, actually, no, we think you're preaching to these children, so we are going to take away your state funding. And the pastor involved said, yeah, okay, that's fine then. If you're going to take away the state funding, I will subsidise it myself. That turned into an enormous face-off between the Social Services Department in Oklahoma, and I can freely call them out because we gave them an opportunity to speak in the documentary. The documentary has evidential material in there that shows that two state representatives, mid-COVID, wearing black face masks, took a 3-year-old child into a room that did not have CCTV. They elected to exclude the staff from the school, and they interrogated this 3-year-old child as to whether or not she had fallen over or been pushed over in an incident by a teacher. 3-year-old child, closed room, no staff present, masked up. I would imagine they've mentally scarred the child for life. Anyway, the upshot was that the pastor had taken against the state. The state wanted all their money back from 5 years worth of, the state subsidy. You come along with a card and you sort of put the card in the machine and it pays the state contribution to the childcare. We went out there with a very campaigning brief. The police ended up on the premises at one point. We filmed with the police. The police were there, the social services people were there, but in fact, the police were present in an effort to throw the social services people off the place. Basically, we did fundraising for that. We went out there, put the documentary out there, ran it online for these folks, and to my great delight, I'm not suggesting we were at the core of it, but about 8 weeks later, the state decided that there was no case to answer. We gave them the opportunity to answer. We had, perhaps slightly audacious, but we sent them a preview copy of it. And when the light was shone on to the truth of this situation, it paled away. Had we not have done that, I'm not praising us, somebody else paid us to do it, but had we or people like us not shone that light of Inquisition onto it, maybe that wouldn't have gone away. Maybe Danny would be facing some type of criminal financial charge from the state of Oklahoma. I don't know. We got on very well with the state of Oklahoma, as it so happens. But so we campaign, we look for the truth and justice, and we look for great stories to tell.
Good for you. I'm thrilled to hear this. In hearing what's going on in Canada, do you have no censorship, or are you able to do documentaries on any topic? Is there no one's coming down on free speech in the UK?
Some activists would tell you that we're constrained and limited, but the answer is no. We're a commercial company, so we can only get away with whatever we can sell because we have to sell the documentaries. However, no, I have never in 40 years of journalism as a radio journalist and latterly a documentary maker, I have never seen any real restriction on free speech in the UK. Not genuinely recognisable restrictions. What's the old phrase? I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. That is genuinely something that is pretty well upheld in the UK. I often do not like it, and believe me, we do have. We have the loony left and we have the loony right here. So we have those who feel it is okay to threaten our members of parliament, threaten their lives in support of the Palestinian viewpoint on what's going on at the moment in the Middle East. And then on the flip side, we also have, anti-Semites and fascists who believe, in disrupting, what has been a pretty happy mix mix of people in the UK. But in terms of right of speech and certainly in terms of broadcast, no, we've never run up against it. We have never probably pushed the boundaries far enough we've probably never pushed the boundaries far enough within what we do to encounter it. We have certainly pushed the boundaries in terms of the absurd, but everybody likes a little bit of absurdity.
Well,
but to hear
speaking of that,
to hear some of the stuff that you're talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, the Roswell, like speaking of the absurd, I mean, at one point, nobody's talking about Roswell. It was all hidden information. Were you able to uncover some interesting things in that documentary? Not to spoil the whole thing because people would like to see it.
Well, I hope I've got 5 minutes because, yes, I can give you some gems on this. The documentary
You do.
is
You've
called,
got 5 minutes. I want to know if there's aliens.
That's what I'm about to tell you, or not. So the documentary is called Roswell 75, The Final Evidence, fronted by a brilliant scientist and presenter, a guy called Dr. David J. Hall. Go and look him up online. He does some remarkable stuff. He's brilliant at working with people's brains and our perception of things. So we really went there with a sort of open viewpoint to try and understand whether or not anything happened. So, spoiler, but it's worth watching the documentary anyway. Here's the news. No, an alien craft did not land or crash or anything else at Roswell. No bodies were taken away. However, it's a fabulous tale. King Arthur didn't probably exist. Excalibur wasn't stuck in the stone, but we all love to go to Disney and try and pull Excalibur out of the stone, don't we? That's the same with Roswell. So we managed to unearth in our documentary, we managed to unearth firstly a police officer who, to his dying day, literally, swore blind that he went to pick a prisoner up. He's from Texas. He went to pick a prisoner up from Roswell and somehow got involved with the supposed crashed UFO. Boy, he saw the bodies, he saw the recovery people, he saw all of that. He is highly credible and convincing on some videotape that we unearthed from 1991, I think it was, just a few years before his passing. Highly credible, beautifully put together. It's beautiful for us because it's an amateur videotape that was done by a local journalist, so there's no edits and so on in it. It's just the sort of stuff that you and I, really like because you can see it's raw and it's there. And we seized on it and we watched the whole thing through. And the guy has no reason to lie. He get paid for this, no reason to lie whatsoever. Simply remarkable. And he ends the interview just as he's getting to the climatic point. He ends the interview by saying, "Oh, sorry, wait a minute, what's that?" His doorbell had rung, and he said, "Oh, that's Julie from the post office. I've got to go," and gets up and walks off. So we looked at that tape. Fantastic. You'll see it all in there. We put it in there. Of course, when we did do further research into it, we found that he couldn't have been there. All the dates and so on wrong. But even more significant than that was an audio tape that we were passed, or rather a transcript of an audio tape. We heard the original audio tape. We couldn't get the rights to that, but we took the transcript and go and research this one because it's fascinating. there was a young lady. I cannot, off the top of my head, remember her name, but as I'm in contact with one or two of my colleagues whilst I'm speaking, I'm sure one of my colleagues will send it to me. There was a young lady who provably, it was recorded, was an assistant to Albert Einstein in 1947. So that's proven. She worked or she was a student at the university. She's one of Albert Einstein's study groups. She, for sure, did work with Albert Einstein. She later on became a high-ranking professor, a very, very credible university, which I don't recall right now. As we got into the 1990s, I'm trying to trace her name. I'm sure one of my colleagues is about to tell me. As the 1990s came round, she recorded an interview with a local journalist, recorded it in a cafeteria at the university, in which she claimed, and at this time she's still she was still a high-ranking professor at this university. She claimed to have been to the crash site with Albert Einstein, telepathically communicated with the aliens. She had a lot of seemingly credible information about the aliens. There was no humor in it. It wasn't done as a spoof. Clearly, the woman was speaking and believed every word that she said. Now, I have to say at that point, why on earth would you do that? Why would you do that? You're at a university. The tape didn't come out until years later. It's proven to be a genuine tape of her. We include that. We did a reenactment of that, which we actually did in a corner cafe in a little town called El Reno in Oklahoma. So I'm fascinated by the myth that's grown up around it. My general feeling, though, is I think we do have by we I actually mean the Western military. Excuse me. I believe we do have our fingers on some technology that is inexplicable to our current knowledge. I believe statistically we'd be pretty arrogant if we thought that we were a life form on our own. In fact, I'm being told that this was somebody called Dr. Shirley Wright. So perhaps your viewers can go and look for that. Dr. Shirley Wright was one of Einstein's assistants. So statistically, we look at all the stars out there. I can't remember what the maths is. The likelihood of us being alone, I think it's fairly thin. Are aliens whizzing by in their, intergalactic Teslas, popping by, dropping down on the planet to look at us? No, I don't think so. Would we recognise them if they were here? Probably not. Gas. There could be a silicon life form. The phone that you've got plugged in there, that could be an alien actually masquerading as, if we think that aliens are going to come out of the craft and they've got 2 arms and 2 legs and a head like just about every alien on Star Trek, bad news. I don't think it's what it is. Bodies at Roswell, no. Was there a cover-up at Roswell? Yes, there was. Because in fact, that device that had fallen from the sky was a high-level radiation detector that was being used to detect whether or not there were atmospheric tests being done by the Russians. That's what the cover-up was about. Very, very convenient to say, it was aliens. If we think back to the mid-'80s, lots of strange lights around Groom Lake, around Edwards Air Force Base. The USAF at the time played up we don't know what these are. Well, alien spotters, of course, it was the perfect cover for the stealth fighter. So it's fascinating. I continue to be fascinated by it, and I continue to wonder, are we alone? Is there something sneaking through from some other kind of dimension? You might call it heaven. You might call it hell. I really don't know. But I don't think that in an underground facility, and funnily enough, you're in Denver, I'm right in saying, I think, at the moment.
Yes.
Are you anywhere near the airport? Well, if you're in Denver or near the airport or at the airport. Right. Well, if you're near the airport, when you go to Denver Airport, just ask some of the, if you can find any of the airport management, ask them about the alien base underneath Denver Airport, because there's a rumor there's an alien base. In fact, it's a complete myth. But the city of Denver have played up to a complete myth because they have an underground trolley system that was originally designed to move all the baggage and everything else. It was going to be completely underground when Denver was built. It didn't work. It's used as service tunnels now. From that grew a myth that there are aliens there, and you'll also find in some of the mosaics they happen to be kind of similar to some Masonic symbols and so on. So the answer is no little green men, Lynn.
So this is the first time I've ever heard this. I know people will be wanting to know where they can see. So we've got to cover where we can see your documentaries. They sound amazing, and even the one on JFK. But I have to say, I'm just so smitten with your voice. I feel like I'm talking to Ricky Gervais, you know, from The Office. He's the creator of that Office comedy series.
Yes, and funnily enough, well, we're going to spin off a little bit. I don't know whether you've seen any of Ricky Gervais's stand-up.
I have.
It is not politically correct, but he makes some very, very, very good points, and some points that I'm sure politically align with you. So, for instance, there is one line when he's talking. I don't wish to offend. I'm not going to say anything bad, but there is there is one line. There's one line that tallies what you were saying about gender. So Ricky Gervais does a bit of stand-up, and he's talking about the possibility of somebody being raped, which is obviously not in any way humorous, but somebody being raped by somebody who is transgender. And he makes a reference and says, well, you know, she raped me. Sorry, he raped me, to which he makes the point that if it's a transgender person, you would have to say, she raped me. It's, you know, he runs very close to the limit, but I think that's...
I mean, it's also confusing, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, and he's somebody who has really got his finger on the pulse of a lot of people. So didn't want to get controversial there, but
well, you know, they reported,
now, can I ask
like,
you
recently...
Sorry.
Yes, sure. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ask me something.
I was going to ask you as a Canadian, because obviously, you know, you're just British with a different sort of veneer painted over you. So. As a Canadian, what do you make of the American political stance at the moment? Because we've got Joe Biden, who, you know, I'm probably politically maybe aligned with Joe Biden. I think the Americans, and I don't mean North Americans, I mean the country of the United States of America, not Canada.
Yeah.
So the Americans believe that a right wing or a left wing, and what they fail to realise is they've actually got two right wing parties, just one's a little bit further than
right, like in Canada. That's how we feel.
Yeah, you have there's no conception of what a socialist government we've had over there. So where does Canada as a country stand on you know, America being governed by either, you know, the undead Joe Biden, bless his heart. And let's hope he comes back.
Hope he retires to a rocking chair.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's lovely to see somebody, you know, from an elderly care home actually doing something useful in society. Do you stand behind Biden, or do you stand behind the tremendous Donald Trump? Is a wonderful, wonderful guy, great guy. So, what do Canadians think, or are you all looking down there going like, well, we've got to? So.
I think a lot of people, like even in the United States, a lot of the people that would align with Biden are going Trump. There's a tremendous amount coming out. At least with Trump, crazy as he is, they felt that he protected the country. People aren't safe because you've got all these open borders. Over 3 million people, I think it might be even higher, have come into the country. Nobody really knows where they are. My greatest concern has been 26,000 military-aged Chinese. Like nothing of this makes sense. There's a very growing concern that there's something happening that we're not aware of, that we don't know what it is, but something's very wrong. It's very wrong. I don't know what president in his right mind wants to allow for an open border where millions of people can come in, and it's affecting now all of the different states. They're beginning to move into different areas. It's very hard. Not only that, you know, with Biden, he has put in just today I was reading, he wants to make it mandatory that boys can go into girls' bathrooms across the United States. They have the worst abortion, you know, policies ever. Like they don't care about life. So all these things don't really align with my side. But
I'm fascinated. Do you believe that to be true, or are we all victims of media distortion? Because do you think there was a piece of legislation going through that actually says that young boys should be encouraged to get into female bathrooms? Is the legislation, in fact, maybe gender neutral bathrooms? I don't know, but that's why we're out there. That's why you should always question things. Can I also say I noticed
Yes.
that
Yeah.
Trump. I think to put a perspective on what's happening in the world, I noticed that Trump is wants to build a wall on the southern border. I noticed there's no intention to build a wall on the northern border to stop all you Canadians from flocking into the land of plenty.
Yeah, because we're not smart enough to leave yet, and we should. I think there might come a day when we are
Really?
all like headed for the border with all our stuff and abandoning Canada. I mean, if I'm going to be put
Well, you're
in
welcome
jail,
to Britain.
good. Thank
You're
you.
welcome to Britain.
That might be another option.
You can come.
Thank you.
If jail beckons for you, you and your husband can come and use our spare room. Really.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to go to jail, but I don't want to be silent either. So it's ridiculous that I'm in a country where they can take a little boy's penis off, they can take young girls' breasts off, and say that if we try to convince them that this could be the wrong decision for them and they should wait at least till they're adults and they can make the same ridiculous decision. But if we try to say that maybe we're causing hatred, and we're not. We actually love these kids. They're so confused by what, these schools have said to them. So it's really, our country has become a very bad place. Like when I participated in the truckers convoy in 2022, that was the greatest move of God. And I know that you have a faith in your life, and you have many different perspectives. Obviously, you're sort of a balanced in all of that. I mean, but we went there because we were not allowed to eat in restaurants if we were unvaccinated or not willing to wear a mask at one point. But the unvaccinated got that we couldn't work unless we took this, experimental drug. Now, if you want to take that should be your choice. But if you don't want to take it, how can a nation force people to lose their jobs? How can doctors, nurses, teachers be forced out of their lifelong, pursuits in their careers because they don't want to take an experimental drug? Like, it became so evil. And then he froze bank accounts. Some people's bank accounts are still frozen. Then we have political prisoners wrongly imprisoned, much like the J6 in the US. So we feel like we're in a very falling Canada, and maybe we all should be running towards the American border. If it's any better, I don't know at this point.
Is that not then our job, people like you and me, to not judge people, but to take
get the truth,
flashlight of broadcast and broadcasting talent and journalism, and simply shine it into the dark corners for everybody to make their own decision?
Yes, that's what I love about what you do. I love that. And the fact that you've exposed the Roswell thing, that it's not what any of us would, at the beginning of this talk, would think, oh yeah, I think that they found aliens. I mean, that's been a given.
It's
and
what
you're
you want
saying
it to be.
It's not.
It's you simply should be open-minded. I'm aware you're short of time. I'm just going to leave you with D-Day coming up.
Yes.
I want to just put one thought in your mind about how we collectively, all of us, as a viewing public and also producers, have often been led by the nose in terms of an excessive desire of a lot of folks to create something that is, excuse me,
sure,
recovering from COVID, that's how it happens. But we've often been led. Yeah, it's all right. I'm a few days out now. We've often been led by this desperate rush to make everything so politically correct. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. There should always be equality, whether that be sex, gender, or whatever else. But 5 years ago, when we were preparing our D-Day documentary of that time, we were working with a different distributor to those who we work with today. That distributor was so concerned about trying to make a D-Day documentary that was inclusive and appealed to a general audience. Now, whichever way you like to look at it, D-Day wasn't terrifically good on either side. A lot of Germans died, a lot of British and allies died, a lot of civilians died. There wasn't anything good about D-Day except for the fight for right. They actually came to us, and I think this probably encapsulates a lot of the media thinking today. They came to us and said, "This D-Day documentary you've got planned, what is the female angle on it? Because there's not a lot of females in it." And we said, no, that's because when those hundreds of thousands of people appeared on the beaches, they were fighting men. Nobody was discriminating against women or whatever. That was 75 years ago. They were fighting men. I can't do anything about that. I can't squeeze some females in because other than those who are tragically getting killed, there weren't any women there. At which point the distributor said, okay, so we haven't got a female angle. Is there any way we can make the whole D-Day thing a bit more fun? That, you know what, that probably, and again, I had to say to him, I'll go back to some of the families of those who died on D-Day, whose bodies have never been repatriated. So I'll go and ask them if we could make it a bit more fun. That is the media mentality in many areas that we are living with that is sad, and that's why we don't play that game. And you don't either.
I love what you do, and I love your accent.
Thank you.
It's been so fun to talk to someone who sounds like Ricky Gervais for the last 40 minutes. Where can we find you? So everybody who wants to see your documentaries, where do we get them?
Okay, I'm going to make a bold decision here. So for a lot of our documentaries, you can go to Netflix. You can find History's Greatest Aircraft is on Netflix, and a bunch of others. And I know I'm about to get a hailstorm of messages from my colleagues, so I'm just going to put that up. I can look at. You can go to Coleman Television. Right, here they come. You can go to colemantelevision.com and you can see some of the links to them. A documentary we made about a remarkable organisation called Veterans Airlift Command, who fly post 9/11 military veterans around who've got injuries for compassionate and medical reasons. It's a documentary called For Military Merit, award-winning, and another one that Rachel Bull made. You can find that on Netflix. It's called For Military Merit. You can also find a lot of our content. I'm literally reading from a script down here now. You can find a lot of our content on Pluto TV, and I'm going to take a bold decision now. If you want to find out more and you're thinking, I'd like to see more of their stuff, email me. I'm probably going to wish I hadn't done this. You can email me, Nick, N-I-K, there's no C, N-I-K, at colemantelevision.com. Oh, and God bless your producer for putting up our website there. With you can see that's the grassy knoll. Curiosity Stream, somewhere else you can see our documentaries, and we'll happily share with you as well. Maybe at some other time we'll share with you some of the wackier documentaries we've done, and
I'd
some
love
of
to have you on again.
the documentaries coming up. The other one I wanted to mention, just because it's so ridiculous, we've got a documentary coming up. I don't know whether you call them in Canada. Do you call fish fingers fish fingers, or do you call them fish sticks?
Oh,
small
fish
breaded
sticks.
Fish sticks.
Yeah.
They're in the UK. They're called fish fingers in the UK. But no fish. We invented fish fingers in the UK. Once again, we're doing a big documentary about the history of fish fingers. So you've got John F. Kennedy's assassination, people with severe mental disabilities,
and thongs.
And thongs.
I can't wait to hear the one on thongs.
We would love to work
I have
with
opinions.
you. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to make a documentary with you. So see if we can make that happen.
So funny. I would love that. It's in my heart as well to do this kind of work. So you know what? You are just a wonderful person. Thank you for sharing your opinions.
Thanks.
And that we can have a real dialogue and talk about real things while we can.
Great.
So thank you so much. And I'll see you in the UK
to
one
see
day
you the
as well.
truth. Lovely
Take care,
to meet
Nick.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that really was enjoyable. I don't know, even the accent, you kind of get the feeling that he could just tell you, anything, and you're just listening to that accent. It really did remind me of Ricky Gervais, and I appreciate that he brought up some of the humor. I mean, Ricky Gervais, he's the kind of guy that gets up in all of the, Hollywood's elite and basically says, you're a bunch of screw ups, basically. And I mean, the man is very fearless. I admire that about him. Sometimes his language is a bit much, but, God's working on him, I'm sure. So let's get Toby, let's book Nick again for not too long away so that we can talk about more of the things that they uncover, particularly as well the JFK story. I think is something worth noting because we're hearing more and more about how our own governments, I mean the CIA, can be involved in horrendous things like that. I mean, what does that all mean when the government is actually the one that's responsible for killing people? So I'm having a blast here, everyone, in Denver, Colorado. I'll see if anyone can tell me about the alien shafts underneath the airport. See if anybody tries to give me a ridiculous story on that. It's all conspiracy theories, isn't it? I'm shocked to hear that maybe those Roswell aliens, like they don't have them. I thought they did. I don't know. I don't have much to say about aliens except, there's been all these sightings that Tucker Carlson was talking about a year ago. That it's just, and Obama came out with it too, that they're just kind of releasing a lot of stuff that the guys that are in military flying around, the skies have seen a lot of these alien encounters and have filmed them. And they're starting to just be more honest about telling the public about it. What is that? Do you know? I don't know. What is that? I do think that we shouldn't rule out demonic presence, just to say. It could be that too. Demons are powerful. They've been given authority on, according to the Bible, they've been given authority on our planet. God kicked them out of heaven, Lucifer and his torrid angels, and put them on earth. And they sort of have, a bit of a time to reign and cause havoc here. So why not? Why not show themselves up? The Bible says that the devil can appear as an angel of light. So what if he's appearing as weird, strange forces out there? And of course, if some of us disappear one day, because in the twinkling of an eye, the word says that we will meet with God. And, maybe, I don't know, some people call it a rapture. I don't know. The word rapture is not in the Bible. But some people just say it's when Jesus finally says there's enough. And the Bible says it's going to get so bad that unless God shortened the days, there would be no one left. Well, we're beginning to see some pretty horrible things, but I think we still have time because I can still get a latte anywhere I want. I can still fly anywhere I want. For a season, I wasn't allowed to eat in a restaurant because of crazy Trudeau, but, that passed. What do they have planned next? Well, just imprisonment and fines. No big deal. I can handle it. All right, so the one thing I'd like to go to, I think, is JT. I had a share there. Can you see it? So with this bill that they're putting out, this is the very dangerous part of it, and I think that Ezra Levant did a really good job of sort of saying, like, they're hiding. Oh, aren't you against child trafficking? Oh, aren't you against child pornography? Aren't you against people that cause terrorist acts and all of that? And you're like, of course we are. We've actually been fighting that a lot harder than you have, you bunch of whatevers. And also, we've also had bills that are for the protection. Do any of you know? And what was interesting to me is that Ezra Levant said he wasn't familiar with this portion that's right here on the screen. Now, Ezra, shame on you. Ezra, how did you not know that this was there? Because we've been talking about this for a long time because we're upset about the pictures, the children's books that are in all of our schools that depict sexual acts between adults, between homosexuals, between heterosexuals. Like, it's just all sexualized, and it's pictures of naked people, and it's so gross I don't even want to give you a description. So here's what it says. It says in the Criminal Code of Canada 162.1, everyone who knowingly publishes, distributes, transmits, sells, makes available, or advertises an intimate image of a person, knowing that that person depicted in the image did not give their consent to that conduct, or being reckless as to whether or not that person gave their consent to that conduct, is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 5 years, or be an offense punishable on summary conviction. So in this section, intimate image means a visual recording of a person made by any means, including a photographic, film, or video recording in which the person is nude, is exposing his or her genital organs. Okay, so it goes on to say, and I don't actually have the criminal code pulled up here, it goes on to say that you are not permitted to show any visual sexual pictures to children. So all of this is already a protection from what this new bill of hate crime, where what they were talking about earlier, where you might put somebody's body or their their person up against their will. But also, the criminal code says specifically you may not show a child any of that. You may not show a child a picture, a pornographic picture. That is against the law. We already have protections against that. All that the government needs to do is stand by the criminal codes that they already have, which of course they don't. So this is a red herring. It's all a ruse in order to bring punishment on those who dare to speak the truth. So who determines what is hate speech? If I say it is vile to lead children into cutting off beautiful body parts, their organs, if I am to say this is vile, this is hideous, it's insanity, it's evil, it's pure evil, that is A, my opinion. B, I'm allowed to have opinions and speak it out in Canada. And number 3, it's not coming from a place of hate, but rather protection of the child. What are these psychopaths in schools doing? Teaching children that somehow they're going to be better off to never have sex, never have a good sex life? Because I don't know how they're going to have a good sex life when you cut off their penis. As a dude, like, it ain't working. You put them into a high suicidality category because they realize this didn't work. And I've been listening to these YouTubers and broadcasts on detransitioners. They can't get their breasts back. They can't get their privates back to the normal, beautiful way God made them. And they're now alone. Because think about it very carefully. When you transition, you really limit the amount of people in life who would want to be your life partner or somebody that you spend a lot of time with. Marriage, your soulmate. You limit the amount of people who would really find that transgender side attractive to be with. You'd have to be searching for a needle in the haystack. Because if you're gay, I guess, let's say you're a gay male, then you want a male. You don't want a female who's trying to be a male, who can't pull off the penis thing. You don't want that. So let's say that you're a heterosexual. Well, you probably don't want somebody who's altered their parts, If you're a transsexual, well, maybe you're doing that because you want to be the opposite gender and you're attracted to the same gender as you were, but now a lesbian, well, maybe she wanted to be with you if you're a girl, but now she doesn't want to be with you because you've actually got a fake penis put on your body. So the gays don't want you, the lesbians don't want you, heterosexuals find it odd, and you look strange. So where do you find true love? Where do you find somebody who wants to stay with you for the rest of your life and build a relationship so you become very alone? So do you know who explained this to me the best? Was a guy who was struggling with transgenderism. And he really, really wanted to be a woman, but he knew he never could be. So he never went through operations. But he really explained to me that the whole thing here is that you're lonely. So you end up being suicidal because you feel like, well, maybe nobody loves me. So it's a very difficult thing. My website is Laura-Lynn.tv, and on this show we talk about very difficult things. on this show, we respectfully, sometimes without, holding back, we talk about what's really happening. We talk about the truth. We've been here to talk about the truth regarding the vaccines and the harms. We've been here to talk about the truth about transgenderism. We've been here to talk about the truth of what Canada is doing to us. And so we appreciate if you like this kind of content, that you would be willing to go to our website at Laura-Lynn.tv. And wow, it's all changed, isn't it? Annika's been changing our website, everybody. We kind of have a new website I see there, JT. That's cool. So somewhere on that website should be a donate page, a donate button, and I don't know where that is anymore. But if you could help us, we appreciate it. If you can make a one-time donation, right there it is, donate now. You can become a monthly partner. That is really helpful for just a little bit. I mean, anywhere from $5 to, $1,000 a month. Hey, that would be absolutely fantastic if the Lord is putting that on your heart today. All right. But for any absolute amount, it means a lot to us if you'll support us monthly. Also, you can be an anonymous donor. And the only way that we can thank our precious anonymous donors is right here. And we do thank you. It means the world to us. It means the world that you donate. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. To all the others, we hope that we send you a thank you, and we send out cards. Snail mail is also available. And that's box 48184. And if you could add Queensborough to that, box 48184, Queensborough, New Westminster, BC, B3M087. If you don't add Queensborough, I've been asking JT for several weeks now to put Queensborough in, but it's okay. I still love him. It's all right. But if you don't put Queensborough, it still gets to us. It's just that, I don't know, a couple packages got returned because nobody could find where it was supposed to go. So then there's also e-transfer, Laura-Lynn Live at protonmail.com. So you mean a lot to us. And as I close today, I want to remind you that we are doing an incredible event with Dr. William Mackis in Vancouver, March 8th. And all of the information is there on the screen. It's also at my website, lauralyn.tv. And Dr. William Mackis has been calling out the pedophiles. He's been calling out the Canadian broadcast system. I talk about too many issues. He's been calling out the Canadian, our health authorities. He's been calling them out because, what's that? Say it again, hon. Yeah, our medical authorities. Exactly. Thanks, hon. And so he's been exposing how pedophiles have been able to keep being doctors in our country, and even, brought into British Columbia under, Bonnie Henry. So we're going to be talking with him at the Scottish Cultural Centre. We're doing a huge event, and it's absolutely free to go. We'd just like to know if you're coming. If you could go to the QR and just register would be nice. We have limited seating, everybody, but even if you don't register, just be sure to come. And it's just that we're hoping that, we have the right amount of seats up for everyone. And we're also, we're going to be just taking a donation for Eli Ibarra. And many of you know Alicio, and he is the worship leader that did many of our events. And he has been very, very sick. His wife has had to leave work, and they are just in the fight of their lives. And so we are hoping he will be okay enough to come and do some songs for us. So we're going to have some music. We're going to hear his story, and then Dr. William Mackis is going to punch it out of the park with his information, not only about this pedophile infiltration into our medical system, but also the harms that have come to our loved ones. And some of you who have basically been told by the government that it was safe, by the medical establishment that it was safe to take the shots, and it was not safe. And he is showing what is going on and the latest on all of that. So March 8th, hope to see you there. And I've got to go, everyone. Thank you so much for your love and your kindness. I will leave you with this verse. If we could go back, I think if you could go to my share, I want to remind you of what I started with here. I think this is a very important verse, if I can highlight it again for you. John 12:42-43. And it says this, yet at the same time, many even among the leaders believed in him. So what this is talking about is that as Jesus was in the earth, many of the leaders, the Pharisees, they didn't all reject him. They believed in him. They went, wow, this is him. This is the Messiah that the Torah, the Old Testament, spoke of coming. This is him. But, and that's a big but. You see that but there? But because of the Pharisees, they would not openly acknowledge their faith. For fear, they would be put out of the synagogue. We're still facing this today. People are fearful. They're fearful of rejection. They're fearful that if I'm honest about what I think, if I speak out on issues, I'm going to be ostracized from my company, my workplace, my church. So even the leaders today in Canada have been silent on many issues. Why? Because they're fearful of being put out of the synagogue. You know how they say the more things change, the more they stay the same? This is it. It's still the same. All of these years later, almost 2,000 years later, the righteous leaders still afraid to speak the truth, because maybe they'll be put out, maybe they'll be criticized. And now we're facing our government not wanting us to speak the truth and trying to impose sanctions that would, put folks who dare to speak the truth, like myself, into tremendous jeopardy. I'm telling you, everyone, this is very serious. It's very serious. And we're going to have to see what happens here. And how do we respond? And what is the price needed to be paid to stand up for freedom? And I certainly hope that the Conservative Party of Canada will be speaking out on it. I know that Maxime Bernier will be speaking out on it. So we can't wait to hear these different people and how they're, are they too afraid to speak out on things like this, or will they call it draconian? And, I just finished seeing Eric Metaxas' film. It was absolutely epic. It's only an hour long, but it really tells the story of what happened in Hitler's Germany during that era, how they gained control of the media, how they made everyone afraid to speak the truth. And because they did that, that became why people were silent and didn't stand up for what was right. And so this scripture says, for they loved human praise more than the praise of God. And I will tell you right now, personally, I do not love human praise more than the praise of God. I've had plenty of rejection in this life, plenty of people that, don't appreciate my views on these things. It doesn't matter. And sometimes even the church just thinks you should be, don't say anything. Don't speak the truth. Don't stand up for what you know is right. These Pharisees wouldn't stand up for knowing that the Messiah had actually come. Who knows, but if they had stood, that there would have been a greater acceptance. There would have been a larger understanding of who Jesus truly was at this time. It never pays to be silent. It's only right to speak up, to speak the truth, to be salt and light, and above all, to protect our children and not let those hideous people be the ones who propagandize our children. God bless everyone. See you soon.
It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.